It all began in the most unexpected of places, a college dorm, surrounded by unfamiliar faces and unfamiliar paths. I had just moved into a new city, away from my family, away from everything that felt safe and secure. I was lost, uncertain about what the future held. Then I met Jake. He was the kind of person who made you feel at ease instantly, the kind of person who knew exactly what to say to make you laugh, even on your worst days. At first, it seemed like a random encounter, one of those passing friendships that happen by chance. But over time, I realized Jake wasn't just anyone. He was someone who had a way of making the world seem a little less scary, a little less lonely. It was something I hadn't experienced before, the comfort of a true friendship. In the beginning, it felt like we were inseparable. Jake and I shared everything: late-night talks, inside jokes, and the bond that formed during those long, stressful study sessions. We would spend hours on end talking about anything and everything, from our dreams, our favorite music, to the strange experiences we had growing up. He quickly became the person I turned to when things went wrong, the one I could rely on when I felt like I had nowhere else to go. I remember those late-night walks around the campus, the air crisp and cool, the sound of our footsteps echoing in the silence. We would talk about everything under the stars, from our plans after graduation to the small, insignificant details that felt important in the moment. I thought I knew him better than anyone else. We were more than friends. We were brothers. As time passed, our friendship only grew stronger. We were always together. Jake was the first one to show up when I was having a tough time, and I was always there for him when he needed someone to listen. We even started spending time with each other's families, introducing our parents to one another, laughing over dinner tables, sharing life stories. And then there was Sarah, his girlfriend at the time. At first, I didn't think much of her. She was a sweet girl, easy to talk to. The three of us would hang out together, grab dinner, or watch movies late into the night. It felt like the perfect friendship. A trio, unbreakable. But things began to shift, slowly, almost imperceptibly. It wasn't until later that I realized the foundation we had built was starting to crumble. Do you remember that one night we stayed up until 3 a.m. talking about our childhood dreams? I remember you saying you wanted to travel the world, and I laughed because I had the same dream. Yeah, man, I always thought we'd travel together, go to places we've never been. It's just that the world seems so big, but with you by my side, it feels like we could do anything. It felt like nothing could break us, right? Like we had it all figured out. But as the months wore on, small changes started to creep into our friendship. Jake started being more distant, not as available as he used to be. At first, I didn't think much of it. Life gets busy, right? Everyone has their own things going on. But as I reached out less and less, I began to feel a shift. It was subtle at first. A missed call here, a canceled plan there. But soon enough, I was the one left waiting, wondering why my best friend was suddenly pulling away. I'd be sitting in my room, staring at my phone, waiting for a message from Jake that never came. The unanswered calls started piling up, and with each one, my anxiety grew. I tried to tell myself it was nothing, but deep down I knew something was wrong. I spent a lot of sleepless nights just thinking about it. I kept telling myself that maybe he was just busy, or maybe something else was going on in his life. But the truth was, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being pushed out. It wasn't just the missed calls or canceled plans. It was the way he would talk about Sarah now. At first it was casual. Oh, I'm meeting Sarah for coffee. Or, we're going to grab dinner later. But then I started hearing her name more often. I started hearing about her more than I heard about anything else in his life. The worst part wasn't the fact that he was spending time with her. It was the way it felt. It was like I was being forgotten, replaced. I wasn't sure how to feel. Was I jealous? Was I upset that my best friend was spending more time with someone else? Or was it something deeper than that? One evening, after not hearing from Jake all day, I decided to text him. It wasn't anything out of the ordinary, just a simple, "Hey, are you free tonight?" But the reply I got wasn't what I expected. "I'm busy, man. Catch you later." It was brief, and it felt like a punch to the gut. It wasn't the first time, but this time it stung. This time it felt different. Hey, Sarah, do you think Jake's been acting a bit strange lately?
I don't know, maybe. He's been really busy with work lately.
It's not just that. I don't know. I feel like I'm losing him somehow. At that moment, I realized that something was changing in a way I couldn't ignore. I'd always been close to Jake, but now it felt like we were growing apart. The more I tried to reach out, the more distant he became. And that feeling, that deep, unsettling feeling, grew stronger with every passing day. But I couldn't let it go. I had to know what was going on. I had to know why everything was shifting. Why the person who had always been there for me was suddenly vanishing from my life. Little did I know, the truth was just around the corner, waiting to hit me harder than I ever imagined. But for now, all I could do was sit with this feeling of unease, wondering what was happening behind the scenes. At first, it was nothing obvious, just small things that didn't make sense. Jake would cancel plans at the last minute. He'd say he was busy, or that something came up. But it was happening more often now. At first, I tried to brush it off. Life gets busy, I told myself. But the truth is, deep down, I knew something was wrong. It wasn't just the missed calls or canceled plans. It was subtle things, like the way he'd laugh at certain things Sarah said, the way his attention shifted. It wasn't obvious at first, but slowly the puzzle pieces were starting to fit together, and the picture they formed was terrifying. Jake's texts became shorter, less personal. Where he used to write long messages, asking about my day, sharing little jokes or thoughts, now it was just, okay, busy, or nothing at all. Even when we met in person, something had changed. The energy between us wasn't the same. He seemed distracted, preoccupied with something, or someone. It hit me one evening when we all went out, me, Jake, and Sarah. I noticed the way they looked at each other, small glances, little smiles that didn't include me. At first I tried to convince myself I was imagining things, but there was a tension, a subtle connection between them that made my chest tighten. Have you been spending a lot of time with Sarah lately? Yeah, I mean, she's just around a lot. You know, catching up, nothing serious. It feels different somehow, like you two have something I don't know about. Come on, man, you're overthinking it. We're just friends. But I knew he wasn't being honest. There was a change in his voice, in the way he avoided my gaze. I had trusted him for years, but that night, a seed of doubt was planted, and I couldn't ignore it. The next day, I tried to talk to Sarah. I needed to know if she felt the same way I was sensing. Hey, Sarah, have you noticed any changes between us lately? Between Jake and me?
I don't think so. I mean, he's always been busy, right?
She's hiding something. I can feel it. But how much? How long has this been going on? Her words felt rehearsed, almost too perfect. But the unease I felt inside didn't go away. Every little laugh, every glance between them, I noticed it more and more. I started paying attention to details I would have ignored before. How Jake's body leaned slightly toward her. The subtle touch of hands on the table. The way they exchanged looks. All of it screamed that something was happening behind my back. I couldn't sleep that night. I replayed every moment in my head, trying to convince myself that maybe I was wrong. But deep down, I knew the truth. Something was going on. I felt betrayed before I even had proof. The anxiety, the fear of losing my best friend, the helplessness. It all started eating at me. I started noticing little patterns. Jake's phone always faced down when we were together. He would hide messages, chuckle at something privately. And Sarah, she was no longer just a friend. Their interactions carried a weight I couldn't ignore. The weeks went by. Every meeting, every casual hangout, every coffee or study session was a reminder that things were changing. I'd walk into the cafe where we used to sit together and see Jake and Sarah talking quietly in a corner. I wanted to approach, to ask, to confront, but something held me back. I was afraid of what I might hear. Then came the day I accidentally saw a text pop up on Jake's phone. I wasn't snooping intentionally. It just appeared while he was leaving his bag on the table. It said, "Can't wait to see you tonight." My heart sank. I felt dizzy. The betrayal I had feared was becoming real, tangible. I had to confront it, but I wasn't ready. Not yet. Every day, the tension grew. I couldn't focus on school, work, or even simple tasks. My mind was consumed with questions. How long has this been going on? Why didn't they tell me? How could my best friend do this? The small doubts became obsessions. I started watching their interactions more closely, analyzing every word, every glance. And the more I observed, the more the truth seemed unavoidable. Little did I know, the tipping point was coming sooner than I expected. The moment I would have to confront reality was right around the corner, and nothing could have prepared me for it. For weeks, I had been feeling a growing unease. Every interaction with Jake and Sarah felt different, charged with tension. I couldn't ignore the little signs anymore. Something was happening behind my back, and deep inside, I knew the truth was closer than I wanted to admit. I tried to convince myself that I was imagining things. Maybe they were just friends. Maybe I was overthinking. But every instinct, every gut feeling, told me otherwise. And one evening, I decided that I had to see for myself. It was late in the evening. The streets were quiet, the city dimly lit by scattered street lamps. My heart was racing as I walked to the cafe where Jake said he was meeting Sarah. I didn't know exactly what I would do if I saw them together. I was afraid, but the need to know outweighed my fear. I approached the cafe slowly, every step heavier than the last. I peered through the window, trying to catch a glimpse without being noticed. And then I saw them. There they were, sitting close together, their faces illuminated by the warm glow of the cafe lights. Jake was laughing at something Sarah said. Not just laughing, leaning slightly toward her, whispering, sharing a joke that wasn't meant for anyone else. And Sarah, she was smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. The smile was different. It was intimate, personal, and it wasn't for me. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My chest tightened. I felt dizzy, my hands trembling. I wanted to scream, to storm in, to demand answers, but I couldn't move. I was frozen, trapped by the sight of my two closest people betraying me. The cafe around them faded into the background. The chatter of other patrons, the clinking of cups, the soft music playing overhead. All of it became a blur. The only thing I could focus on was them. Every glance, every gesture, every whispered word cut into me like a knife. I noticed Jake's hand brush against Sarah's, subtly, almost casually, but I saw it. My mind raced, replaying every interaction I'd had with them over the past weeks. The missed calls, the late-night messages, the small excuses. They all made sense now. I had been blind. I had been betrayed. Anger, disbelief, and heartbreak all collided inside me. How could my best friend do this? How could Sarah, someone I once loved deeply, be a part of this betrayal? The emotions were overwhelming, a storm raging through every fiber of my being. I thought back to all the moments we had shared, the laughter, the late-night talks, the promises we had made to each other. And now they were being rewritten without me, without my knowledge, as if I had never mattered. I saw them lean closer. I saw the way their eyes met, the subtle gestures, the secret world they had created without me. And in that instant, the reality hit me like a tidal wave. This was not a simple friendship anymore. This was betrayal. Plain and simple. And it had been happening right under my nose. I left the cafe that night feeling hollow. I didn't know how to process it. I didn't know if I would ever be able to trust Jake again, or if I could forgive Sarah. The betrayal was real, undeniable. And yet, A part of me couldn't stop thinking about confronting them, demanding answers, even if it destroyed everything in the process. Little did I know, this was only the beginning. The discovery of the truth was the first step in a journey that would challenge my heart, my mind, and everything I thought I knew about loyalty and friendship. I couldn't keep running from the truth anymore. I had seen it with my own eyes. The betrayal, the lies, the secret world Jake and Sarah had built without me. And yet, something inside me told me I had to face them, to confront them. I couldn't let it simmer in my head, tearing me apart from the inside. I had to hear it from their mouths. I had to hear the truth. It wasn't going to be easy. I knew that. But in that moment, all I could think about was putting an end to the uncertainty, to the crushing weight of not knowing the full story. I had to do it. For myself. I called Jake that evening. My hands were shaking as I dialed his number. I had no idea what I was going to say, but I knew I couldn't back out now. The conversation had to happen, no matter how painful it would be. When he picked up, his voice sounded casual, as if nothing had changed. But I could hear it, the nervousness just beneath the surface. "Hey, what's up?" he asked. His voice was too calm. It didn't match the storm brewing in my chest. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady but filled with anger and uncertainty. "Now, in person. Meet me at the park."
The moment I saw him walking toward me, I felt every ounce of tension in my body tighten. I tried to keep my composure, but I could feel the rage rising inside me. Jake walked up slowly, a look of confusion on his face. He clearly didn't know what was coming. "You wanted to talk?" he said, hands in his pockets, not meeting my gaze. "What's going on?" But I wasn't ready for casual conversation anymore. This was it, the moment I had been dreading. I had to speak. I had to say it out loud. I had to face the truth, no matter how ugly it was. "I know what's been going on. I saw you, both of you, last night. Laughing, sitting together like there's no secret, no betrayal. I didn't mean for you to find out like this. I thought I could hide it." His words felt like a slap in the face. "You thought you could hide it?" I wanted to shout, to scream at him, to make him understand the hurt he had caused. But instead I stood there, silent, trying to process what I was hearing. Jake started to explain, and I didn't want to hear it. But he kept going, his voice low, almost ashamed. "It started a while ago, man. I didn't plan for this to happen. I didn't know how to deal with it. We got closer, and things just changed." I was speechless. All I could do was stand there, feeling the anger bubble inside me. "You knew. You knew what you were doing, and you kept lying. You kept acting like everything was normal, like nothing was wrong. But you've been lying to me, Jake, and you've been lying to Sarah, too." He had betrayed me in the worst possible way. Not just with Sarah, but by pretending nothing was happening. By pretending I was still his best friend, while he was tearing everything apart behind my back. I didn't know how to react anymore. Anger surged through me, but something else, something deeper, also hit me. Disappointment. I had trusted him more than anyone else in the world, and he had just destroyed it all. As if this moment wasn't enough, I still had to face Sarah. I couldn't just let it slide. I couldn't let her off easy. I had to hear it from her. I had to know if she felt the same way as Jake. I called her the next day, and we met up at the same cafe where I had seen them together. The place felt different now. Everything about it felt empty. "Sarah, I saw you with Jake. I saw the way he looked at you. The way you two were acting like there was no secret between you."
I didn't want to hurt you, really. But things just happened. We tried to keep it quiet because we didn't want to cause any more pain. But it was inevitable.
I could hear the guilt in her voice, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to erase the fact that she had been the one I loved, and she had betrayed me too. "You should have told me," I said quietly, feeling my anger slip into hurt. But the truth was,
it didn't matter anymore. Nothing could change what had already happened. The betrayal was out in the open. The damage had been done. As I walked away from them both, I felt numb. My head was spinning, my heart felt heavy. I couldn't believe that the two people I had trusted most in my life had turned their backs on me. Everything I thought I knew was shattered, and I didn't know what to do next. Was it worth it? Did I deserve this? How could I ever move past this betrayal? I thought about everything we had shared. The good times, the promises, the laughter. And then it hit me. It wasn't just about the betrayal. It was about who I had become. Someone who let others walk over him. Someone who allowed his best friend and ex-girlfriend to destroy him. I had been too passive, too trusting. And now I was paying the price. But as much as it hurt, as much as I wanted to scream and lash out, I knew I couldn't let this define me. I had to let go of the past, no matter how painful it was. I had to move forward, for myself. The days after the confrontation were the hardest. I thought that once I knew the truth, it would set me free, but it did. Instead, I felt like I was drowning in it. The anger, the hurt, the sense of betrayal, it was suffocating. I tried to move forward, to forget, but every step felt like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. Every memory with Jake, every moment with Sarah haunted me. They didn't just hurt me in the present. They had shattered my past, and I couldn't escape it. I found myself retreating into solitude. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to hear their pity or advice. I needed space. I needed to figure things out on my own, even if that meant being alone for a while. I stopped answering calls from friends, avoided social events, and spent most of my time in my apartment. I couldn't bring myself to go out. The thought of seeing Jake or Sarah made me sick to my stomach. I started distancing myself from everything I once loved. The music we used to listen to, the places we used to hang out. They all felt like reminders of the betrayal. Even walking down the street felt like a battle. Everywhere I looked, I saw memories I couldn't erase. The hardest part wasn't confronting them. It wasn't even the betrayal. It was the aftermath, the lingering questions. What could I have done differently? Why didn't I see it coming? The self-doubt ate at me. I thought I was strong, that I had control over my life, but now I was questioning everything. I kept thinking, how could I have been so blind? How could I have trusted them both so easily? And then there was the question that kept me awake at night. Was I not enough? Was I not worth it? One evening, I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection. I didn't recognize the person looking back at me. The person who had been so naive, so trusting, that he let others dictate his worth. I felt empty, like a shell of who I used to be. I had to come to terms with something that wasn't easy. The pain wasn't going to disappear overnight. It wasn't going to go away just because I wanted it to. But I also realized something important. I had the power to rebuild. I could choose to stay broken, or I could choose to move forward. The pain was real, but so was my strength. I needed to tap into that strength, no matter how hard it was. So I made a decision. I couldn't change the past. I couldn't erase the hurt, the betrayal, or the anger. But I could change how I moved forward. I couldn't let Jake and Sarah control my future. They had stolen enough from me already. I started small. I began to leave the house more often, going to the gym, walking in the park, meeting new people. I surrounded myself with those who cared about me, who reminded me that I was still worthy of love and respect. It wasn't easy.
Some days were harder than others. I still thought about Jake and Sarah. The betrayal was never far from my mind. But little by little, I started feeling like myself again. I started taking back the control they had stolen from me. Eventually, I reached out to my old friends, the ones I had pushed away during my isolation. I realized that I wasn't the only one who had been hurt. They were worried about me, and I knew I had let them down by not being there. I spoke to Mark, one of my closest friends from college, and he told me something I'll never forget. You've been through a lot, but you're not alone. We've all got your back. Don't let them take away who you are. His words were simple, but they meant everything to me. It took time, but the more I started to heal, the more I realized that this pain had taught me something valuable. It taught me to trust myself again, to rely on my own strength, my own judgment. I started setting boundaries, realizing that I didn't need to let anyone into my life who didn't value me the way I deserved. I began rediscovering who I was before Jake and Sarah, the person who didn't need anyone's approval to feel whole. I was learning to love myself again. In the end, I made peace with my past. I couldn't change it, but I could choose how it affected me. I didn't need to hold on to the anger. I didn't need to keep carrying the weight of their betrayal. They had their reasons for what they did, but that didn't mean I had to let their actions define me. I learned that forgiveness wasn't about excusing their behavior. It was about freeing myself from the grip of resentment. And as for Jake and Sarah, I knew I'd never be the same around them again. But I didn't need to be. I had moved on. I had rebuilt myself. Looking back, I realized that pain was an inevitable part of life, but it didn't break me. It forged me into something stronger. I've learned that the most important thing in life is not to avoid pain, but to grow from it, to rise from the ashes of what's been lost and rebuild, piece by piece. Maybe, just maybe, this whole experience was the beginning of something better. A chance to reclaim my power, to create a future that was truly mine. And as for the future, I don't know what it holds, but I'm ready for it. Because I've learned that the greatest strength comes not from what we endure, but from how we rise above it. As I reflect on everything that's happened, I realize how much I've changed. The pain, the betrayal, and the broken friendships, they all taught me lessons I never expected to learn. At first, I couldn't see it. I thought I was just a victim of circumstances, but now I see it differently. I see a person who survived, who overcame the worst, a person who faced their darkest fears and emerged stronger on the other side. Maybe it was the pain that helped me see the truth, that sometimes life doesn't go as planned. People will disappoint you, and things will fall apart. But that's not the end of the story. It's only the beginning. One of the hardest lessons I had to learn was that no one is perfect. We all make mistakes. I wasn't perfect, and neither were Jake and Sarah. But the key to moving forward was realizing that their actions didn't define me. They didn't have the power to shape my future unless I let them. I couldn't let their mistakes dictate my life. I couldn't let their betrayal hold me hostage. The truth was, I had the power to control how I responded to the pain. I had the power to heal. Now, as I look forward to the future, I realize something even more important. Healing doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. There will be good days, and there will be bad ones. But each day is an opportunity to grow, to get closer to the person I want to be. And so, I'm not rushing it. I'm not trying to force closure. I'm letting myself breathe, letting myself heal at my own pace. The scars will always be there, but they'll fade with time, and they won't control me anymore. If you've ever been betrayed, if you've ever felt like everything was falling apart, I want you to know this. You are not alone. It might feel like the pain will never end, but I promise you, it does. It will take time, but it will end. You will find peace again. And most importantly, you will find yourself again. You'll find your strength, your purpose, and your happiness. Not because of what others did to you, but because of who you are and how you choose to rise above the pain. So don't give up. Keep moving forward, no matter how hard it seems, because one day you'll look back and realize how far you've come, and that will be the moment you truly heal. In the end, life is all about learning from our struggles. It's about embracing the challenges, facing them head-on, and letting them shape us into stronger, wiser individuals. We all have our battles, but it's how we fight them that matters. As for me, I'm ready for whatever comes next. I've learned that even in the hardest of times, there is hope, there is strength, and there is always a way forward. And that's the journey I'm on now. A journey of healing, of growth, and of a future that's mine to create. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've been through something similar, know that your story matters too. Don't be afraid to share it. You're not alone. You're stronger than you think. And remember, healing is possible. It's just a matter of time.